Stop scrolling for just 1 second. What would you do if a single act of kindness dragged you into a world of blood, power, and impossible love? This story isn't about heroes or villains. It's about two broken people who collided at the wrong time and changed each other forever. If you believe kindness can save a soul or destroy it, stay with me. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. Now listen carefully. He never expected the knock. Elias Rahman froze in the middle of his living room, the city glowing beneath his windows like a living thing that never slept. Nobody knocked on his door. Not neighbors. Not delivery drivers. Not management. People learned quickly that apartment 1207 was not a place to linger. His hand moved before his thoughts caught up. Drawer open. Cold steel in his palm. Breath shallow. Controlled. The security camera feed glowed on his phone. A woman stood outside. Young. Dark-skinned. Cheap winter coat dusted with snow. Hair pulled back tight like she didn't trust the world to leave it alone. In her hands was something wrapped in foil. She shifted her weight, cold already creeping through her boots. Threats didn't knock. They kicked, but mistakes knocked. Elias opened the door halfway. Fluorescent hallway light spilled inside. Her eyes widened. Not with recognition, but with fear. The kind that comes when someone realizes they may have made a terrible decision. Yes. His voice was flat. Neutral. The voice that made grown men reconsider their life choices. She swallowed. I'm sorry. I work at the diner on Jefferson. We had extra food tonight. I saw your light on and I didn't want it to go to waste. No manipulation. No angle. Just exhaustion wearing the shape of kindness. No. He started to close the door. "Kay, I'm sorry." She turned too quickly. Her shoulder clipped the frame. The package nearly slipped. That's when he noticed her hands shaking. Not from cold. From something older. He recognized that tremor. His mother's hands had shaken like that near the end. People who worked too hard. Slept too little. Still chose to care when caring made no sense. Wait. She stopped. He opened the door fully. Come in. It's cold. Her hesitation lasted 3 seconds. Then she crossed the threshold. His apartment didn't look lived in. Empty walls. Untouched furniture. Darkness interrupted only by the city's reflection. It felt less like a home and more like a place where someone waited to disappear. She set the package on the counter carefully. Like it mattered. Like he mattered. You don't have to eat it now, she said softly. Just whenever. Thank you. The words felt foreign. She didn't ask his name. Didn't ask anything. She just left. The door clicked shut. Silence returned, but something had cracked. Elias unwrapped the foil. Meatloaf. Mashed potatoes. Green beans. He ate standing up. Halfway through, his vision blurred. A tear hit the counter. Then another. For the first time in years, Elias Rahman cried over a meal someone brought him. Across the city, Amara Lewis rode the bus home, staring at her reflection in the dark window, wondering why the man in apartment 1207 looked like he was drowning on dry land. What neither of them knew was that kindness creates debts, and some debts are paid in blood. Amara's apartment sat above a laundromat that never slept. Heat barely worked. Lock stuck. Rent just low enough to survive if she skipped meals and picked up extra shifts. She dropped her bag, kicked off her boots, and stood there wondering why she'd done it. She'd seen him weeks ago. 12 floors up. Sitting alone at a table. No television. No movement. Just absence. Tonight, holding food she couldn't afford to waste, she'd climbed 12 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. Being kind costs nothing, and sometimes everything. Her mother had died 2 winters ago. Stroke. Amara was working a double shift. Guilt lived in her chest like a second heart. She pressed her forehead to the window and whispered, "Please be okay." Across the city, 3 men watched hallway footage from apartment 1207. The youngest paused the video on Amara's face. Who is she? Don't know. But she visited Elias tonight. Silence. Find out everything. She looks breakable. New Year's Eve arrived with snow and fireworks. Elias stood at his window when he saw her crossing the street, paper bag clutched to her chest. He opened the door before she knocked. "You'll freeze," he said. This time she stepped inside with more confidence. Still alert. Still smart, chilly, cornbread. "Holidays are hard," she said quietly. "They are. My mom died 2 years ago. My mother died on Christmas Eve. I was late." Silence settled. Not awkward, but shared. "I'm Amara." Elias. Fireworks cracked open the sky. At midnight, she whispered, "Happy New Year." "Happy New Year." She stayed an hour. When she left, she asked, "Can I come back? I'd like that." Neither of them saw the car across the street. Neither noticed the camera pointed at his window. 3 weeks later, Amara's boss cornered her between tables. "You've been distracted. I need the hours. You want uncomfortable." Her schedule was cut in half by closing time. She went to Elias's apartment instead of home. He opened the door and saw it immediately. "What happened?" "My boss." "What's his name?" She hesitated. Her phone buzzed. A photo. Her building. Taken that day. Elias looked at the screen. "Stay here tonight." "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done already." 3 nights later, a brick came through her window. A note was tied around it. "Difficult women get hurt. Last warning." She called Elias. "I'm coming." 17 minutes later, he stood in her apartment, eyes cold. "Pack a bag." "You're going to kill him." "I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again." She whispered, "Okay." When Elias left her in the car, he returned 15 minutes later, hands clean, soul darker. Brent Halvers disappeared on a Tuesday. No body. No trail. Amara felt safe. That terrified her. "You killed for me," she said. "I won't let you be hurt." She loved him. That scared her more. "I can't stay," she said. "I won't be the reason you keep killing." She left the next morning. 3 weeks later, she read the article. Federal investigation. Organized crime. Disappearances. Dozens. She threw up. Elias called. "I'm walking away." "They'll kill you." "Maybe. I don't forgive you. I don't deserve it." He met with them anyway. He traded everything, his freedom, his name, his life, for her safety. Elias Rahman disappeared. 6 months later, a letter arrived. Prison. Visiting hours. He sat behind glass, thinner, older. "I testified," he said. 15 years. "Why?" "Because you were right." She pressed her hand to the glass. "I don't know if I can wait." "I'm not asking you to." He smiled. "Loving you was the first good thing I did in 12 years. Stop everything for a moment. Imagine losing someone you care about. Not to distance. Not to time. But to a choice you never thought you'd make." That's what Amara is about to face. She doesn't yet know how dark the world around her will get. Or how far Elias is willing to go to protect her. Amara stared at the envelope in her hand, trembling. The prison's return address mocked her, stark, official, impossible to ignore. She tore it open slowly, almost afraid of what it might say. The letter inside was precise, almost clinical, but the words cut deeper than anything physical ever could. Testified. 15 years. Waiting. Her chest tightened. The cafe where she worked smelled faintly of burnt coffee and old linoleum, but she barely noticed. The letters on the page blurred. She reread, and then read again. Elias had given everything for her, his freedom, his safety, his future, and yet, he still carried the weight of a darkness she couldn't touch. Her mind replayed the nights she spent with him before he disappeared. The warmth of his apartment. The way he moved when he thought no one was watching, the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, all of it had felt fragile, delicate, like glass that could shatter at any moment. Now, that fragility had been replaced by absence. Amara returned to her tiny apartment, the night pressing against her like a wet blanket. Every step up the creaking stairs felt heavier than the last. When she pushed open her door, the space felt emptier than ever. She sat on the edge of her bed and let herself finally think about what had happened. Weeks before, When the brick had smashed through her window, she had felt fear. But that fear had been a physical thing. A tangible threat. Now, this waiting, this limbo of not knowing, was worse. It seeped into her bones. She reached for her phone. "Hello." Elias's voice, muffled but unmistakable, came through the line. I don't know if I can wait," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to," he said. The calm in his voice was almost infuriating. "Loving you was the first good thing I did in 12 years. That's enough for me." She pressed her hand to the phone, as if the pressure could transfer her heartbeat to him. "And now? I did what I had to. That world, it's not yours. You deserve to live without it dragging you under." Amara wanted to argue. To tell him that she didn't care about danger or darkness. That she would stand by him if he needed her. But she knew the truth. Her presence endangered him. It always had. And now, more than ever, she could not allow that. Days turned into weeks. Amara returned to her routine, working long hours at the diner, cooking, and sleeping in small bursts. But the absence of Elias felt like a wound that never healed. Every person who crossed her path reminded her of him. The way someone carried themselves, the subtle tensions in conversation, the distant, almost imperceptible signs of someone who had lived in a world darker than most could imagine. One rainy night, she walked past a narrow alley on her way home. A figure stepped out of the shadows, and her heart froze. She didn't run, couldn't run. Her body betrayed her. It was one of the men who had once followed Elias. His face was partly hidden, but the menace in his stance was unmistakable. "Miss Lewis," he said, voice low and controlled. "We're not done yet." Her fingers clenched around her bag. "I'm not who you're looking for." He smirked, sharp and cruel. "That's what he wants you to think. But you're the reason he made the choice he did." Amara's stomach dropped. Every lesson Elias had taught her, every warning he had given about the dangers of his world, replayed in her mind. And yet, fear had never been this sharp. It was a different kind of fear, one that rooted her in place and whispered that she could never be safe. She turned, ran, and didn't stop until her apartment door slammed behind her. Her chest heaved. Rainwater dripped from her coat onto the worn floorboards, leaving dark puddles that mirrored her turmoil. She sank to the ground, her mind racing. Elias's sacrifices, the prison letter, the men who still hunted him. They weren't going to let her forget. Weeks later, a letter arrived at her doorstep. No envelope this time, just a folded sheet of paper with neat, deliberate handwriting. "Mara, they will never stop watching. They will never stop looking, but neither will I. Be careful. Be alive, be you. Elias." Her tears blurred the ink. She folded the note, pressed it to her chest, and sat on the floor staring at the ceiling. The world outside carried on as if nothing had happened. Cars honked. People shouted. Dogs barked. But for Amara, time had slowed to a crawl. Every sound was amplified, every shadow suspicious. And yet, through all of it, one thought refused to leave her mind: Elias had done this for her. Every danger, every sacrifice, every decision had been to keep her safe. Months passed. The seasons shifted. Snow melted into spring, and spring into summer. Amara tried to move on, to live. But nothing filled the void he had left. She kept the letters, read them until the paper was soft. The ink faded. Each word was a lifeline, a reminder of the man who had risked everything to protect her. Then, one night, the unexpected happened. She returned from her shift to find a car idling outside her building. A familiar figure stepped out, older, thinner, but unmistakable. Elias. Her breath caught. The world seemed to tilt, then right itself again. She rushed to him, hands trembling, words failing. "I had to see you," he said simply. "I couldn't stay away any longer. They think I'm gone. But I'm here." Amara's knees weakened, and she wrapped her arms around him. He held her as if he would never let go. And for the first time since his disappearance, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, the nightmare was over. But the truth was darker. The enemies, the debts, the blood that lingered in the shadows, they hadn't vanished. And as they stood together in the quiet night, Amara realized that their story was far from finished. The choices that awaited them would demand more than love. More than courage. They would demand survival. And when the first gunshot echoed through the alleyway, near her apartment the next morning, Amara knew. Elias's world had followed him home. The life they had imagined, a life where kindness could flourish without cost, had been stolen. But one thing remained together: they were unstoppable. If you're on the edge of your seat, waiting to see what happens next, don't go anywhere. Part 3 is where everything explodes. The truth, the enemies, and the impossible choices. Amara and Elias's story isn't over yet. Comment. Part THRU. To keep following their dangerous, heart-pounding journey. Amara's apartment never felt the same. The first gunshot had shattered the fragile illusion of safety, and every sound after that. The click of locks, the whisper of footsteps, the sudden creak of the radiator, was amplified. She clutched her mug of lukewarm coffee, knuckles white, and stared at the window. Outside, the city pulsed with indifferent life, unaware of the war that had followed her home. Elias stood behind her, quiet, calculating. Months of prison had changed him in subtle ways. His hair was grayer at the temples, his body thinner, his eyes sharper. But the fire that had driven him before, the drive to protect, to survive, to control the chaos around him, burned brighter than ever. "They're coming," he said, voice low, calm. Amara flinched. "How do you know?" "They never stop," he replied. "And they won't. Not until I'm dead, or they are." The apartment felt smaller suddenly, suffocating. She had hoped that his return meant the danger was over, that somehow, against all odds, they could exist together without shadows lurking around every corner. But hope, she realized, had never been a luxury for them. Elias moved to the window, surveying the street. The headlights of a black SUV traced the curb below, but no one exited. Just a threat, a promise that the world outside was closing in. "Amara," he said, turning to face her. "Listen to me. I need you to be ready. If they come inside, I need you to trust me, and I need you to survive." She nodded, swallowing the fear that lodged in her throat. "I'll do whatever it takes." They didn't wait long. The first knock came at the door just past midnight, hard, insistent. Elias moved like a shadow, opening the door a crack. Two men in dark coats, faces obscured by hoods, hesitated. They didn't recognize him immediately, and that hesitation was all he needed. With a speed that made Amara gasp, he struck. Within seconds, the men were disarmed, one unconscious on the floor, the other retreating into the night. Elias didn't breathe hard. He simply looked at her and said, "See, this is why you stay behind me." Amara's heart raced, but she also felt a strange surge of admiration. He had survived everything. Prison, enemies, betrayal. And yet he moved as if the violence around him was natural, a tool rather than a curse. Days passed. The city became a chessboard. Elias and Amara moved carefully, avoiding surveillance, creating safe routes, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation with those who had hunted him for years. Every quiet moment was stolen, every laugh shared tinged with tension. But their connection deepened. They had endured months of separation, fear, and uncertainty, and now, in the eye of the storm, their bond was unbreakable. Then came the message that changed everything. A simple text, no sender, no number. "Tonight. Dock 17. Alone." Elias read it, expression unreadable. "They want a meeting. They think I'm vulnerable." Amara's stomach sank. "You can't go alone." "I have to," he said firmly. "It's the only way to end this. If I don't, they'll keep coming. And someone else, someone innocent, will get hurt. I've spent 12 years protecting the wrong people. Tonight, it ends." She wanted to argue, to beg, to throw herself in front of him. But she understood. This was his world, his battlefield. She was only ever allowed glimpses of it. She grabbed his hand, squeezing tightly. "Come back to me." Elias smiled faintly, a ghost of the man she had first known. "I always do." The docks were cold and empty, mist rolling off the water like spectral fingers. Ilias moved with precision, scanning, alert. He waited. And then they arrived, 6 men, each armed, each ruthless. Negotiations began in low voices. Threats, promises, and veiled warnings. Elias listened, patient, calculating every move. And then, as if on cue, one of the men made a mistake. A twitch, a glance, a hesitation. It was all Elias needed. In a blur, he disarmed the group, using every ounce of skill and instinct he had honed over years of survival. The fight was brutal, close, and terrifying. Amara watched from the shadows, her pulse racing, every instinct screaming to intervene but knowing she could not. When it was over, only Elias remained standing. The others were unconscious or fleeing, their threats silenced for now. Bloodied, bruised, but unbowed, he turned toward the dark harbor and whispered, "It's over." Amara rushed to him, throwing her arms around him. He held her tight, as if letting go would mean losing her forever. "You promised," she whispered. "I always keep my promises," he murmured. The following weeks were cautious, measured. Elias used his freedom wisely, dissolving the network that had pursued him, eliminating threats from the shadows, ensuring that no one could ever endanger Amara again. The city, which had once seemed indifferent, now seemed alive in a safer, quieter way. They returned to a semblance of normalcy. Elias took her hand one evening as they walked through a sunlit park, the first truly peaceful day they had experienced in months. "You can live now," he said softly. "Really live." Amara leaned into him. "Because of you." "No," he corrected, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Because of us." They built a life together from the fragments left behind. Small joys, quiet routines, moments of laughter that tasted sweeter for all they had endured. Elias kept the past locked away, a world only he fully understood, while Amara flourished in the life he fought to give her. And yet, even in peace, they never forgot the cost. Every quiet dinner, every soft touch, every whispered, "I love you," carried the weight of their journey. The sacrifices, the losses, the darkness that had once consumed them. But it also carried something stronger, a love forged in fire, unbreakable, unstoppable, eternal. Years later, Amara held their first child, a daughter with eyes that reflected both her parents' strength. Elias stood beside her, hand on her shoulder, smiling in a way that spoke of hard-won peace. "This world," he said softly, "we survived it. Together." Amara looked into his eyes, and for the first time in her life, she allowed herself to believe that survival was only the beginning. Love, in all its terrifying, consuming power, was next. As the sun set over the city, painting the skyline in gold and crimson, Amara whispered to her daughter, "You are safe. You are loved. And you are everything we've fought for." Elias kissed the top of her head. "And will protect you. Always." They had survived the darkness, faced the debts, confronted the enemies, and come out on the other side. Not unscathed, not without loss. But stronger, bonded, and unstoppable. Some debts, they realized, are never meant to be repaid in blood. Some debts are meant to be repaid in love, courage, and life. And for Amara and Elias, that debt had been fulfilled. If this story gripped your heart, don't let the journey end here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment "Finessed" to share your thoughts and see more stories where love, courage, and sacrifice collide in ways you'll never forget.